Hey guys, how's it going? Comparing here.
And Krippy.
Just insistent on bombing on my videos, man. It's terrible. Well, I'm tired as fuck. We just got back to Krippy's place after a long drive, which I apparently fell asleep on. And I never fall asleep in cars, so I am tired as fuck. Haven't been getting much sleep the last 3 or 4... a while. I don't know. But anyway, I'm like pretty much getting ready to fall over, and I'm gonna go to sleep here pretty soon. No stream for tonight. I have to apologize for that, but you know, I did the Hearthstone tournament at Blizzcon, and that was pretty crazy, and obviously a lot of people really enjoyed watching it, so I feel the need to talk about it a little bit. I did a few interviews and all that, so I'm sure if I'm missing out some details here, they're probably someplace else, and I should probably check that shit out anyway. So, just want to tell you guys what went down, what led to the moderate success of getting second place in BlizzCon Hearthstone tournament. Alright, so played a bunch of decks, practiced for about a week and a half or so. A lot of cool people helped me out. Silas, Ixar, a lot of people just on my friends list. Anyone queuing up on ranked pretty much helped me out. I got a lot of ideas from playing other decks. Copied a lot of decks, played what I thought was good. Out of the decks that I actually played, I ended up playing Sixa's Pally deck. I think I have 2 cards that are different. I think using Tyrion in that deck is really bad because it breaks your Divine Favor. And the other substitute, I don't remember, but one of the substitutes that was in was Sea Giant. I was going to go with like another Argent Commander or something, but Ixar said Sea Giant's pretty sweet. And yeah, just went with Sea Giant, I didn't really care. And the other deck that I copied a lot of was Artosis's Red Deck Wins, and funny enough, Artosis was the guy that ended up taking first place. There's a lot of differences, so, you know, yeah, it's like maybe 5 or 6 cards that are different from that deck, but, you know, when you're looking at like a Mage Rushdown deck, 5 or 6 cards is, you know, somewhat of a large difference sometimes. But overall, it plays the same way. You just do some damage, and then turn 8 comes around, and you have a Pyroblast in your hand because you have 2 of them in your deck, and then your opponent loses. So that's how that deck works. And the third deck was a Priest deck. Pretty much went from the ground up on this one. Played lots of different Priest decks. Really found the idea that Ixar played around with his Priest deck. He had a really slow deck, but the Drakes like carried so hard in the mid game that I'd actually lose with somewhat fast decks against a slow-ass Priest deck. So, you know, I got the idea of, you know, focusing on magnifying the strength of the Drakes, using the taunts, but because taunts suck, using the Defender of Argus, using Sunfury Protectors, and, you know, it's just a really solid deck. So how did the tournament play out? Well, I was first matched up against Hafu, and Hafu, looking back out of the 3 matches, I think I was the least likely to win against Hafu as opposed to the other opponents, just because you know, I knew all the cards in her deck, and I tried to throw her off her game a little bit, and I'm pretty sure that had some part to me winning. But basically, her Mage deck, I think, does better than 50% against all of the decks that I had. So I went in with what I thought might have the best chance, which is the fast Pally deck, because sometimes when you play a really fast Pally deck like the one I have, which has just a shitload of 1-drops, sometimes the mages get, you know, a little bit too greedy and they start pinging off your creatures with their hero ability, and if they do that against that deck, they fall so far behind they have no chance of winning. So I thought, you know, maybe that'll work. Didn't end up being that case, but I ended up winning anyway. I was pretty lucky to do so in the first round, and as a result, I ended up winning the rest. But, you know, overall, I won a match that I think on average I would not have won, so I was pretty lucky in that sense. And now there was a semifinals because there's only 8 people, so pretty easy game there. Played Wreckful, who apparently threw the game. I didn't know this at the time because, hey, I don't get to see the guy's hand, but the audience do, so they were pretty amused when Wreckful could actually kill me. I did end up leading with the Priest. I've noticed that it seems that in the tournament, if you win the first match, you win the whole series quite effortlessly in most cases, and it's really important to predict what your opponent will play as their first deck so you can play the best deck that you have against it. And my predictions were right for Hafu, for Wreckful, and for Artosis. Whether I made the best pick to counter them, maybe questionable against Artosis, but I think overall my strategy went over pretty well. So I figured Wreckful would play Mage first because Mage kind of does okay against anything, and then he can, you know, play his more situational decks to back it up. And I thought my best deck against Wreckful is probably going to be Priest. I can kind of take like a coin flip with my Mage deck, but not so great. And I can try to rush him down with Pally, which might work. Don't get me wrong, it might work. But I think the Paladin was going to absolutely crush his Priest deck, just because it's a slow Priest deck. If you play super fast Pally against a slow Priest, they have absolutely no chance. So I didn't really want to waste that on the circumstance that, you know, I ended up getting owned by a few of the nice combos that he has in his Mage deck. So, yeah, played the Priest deck, came out ahead, but apparently the only reason I did is because he failed to see a kill condition. But, you know, overall still a pretty close game. After that, he queued with his Priest. My Priest is actually very good against all the decks. It doesn't like crush any decks, except, you know, maybe a few slow like Warrior decks or slow Pally decks, something like that. But it's not the kind of shit you're going to see in a tournament. It just does pretty well against most decks. And the only deck it does really badly against is actually other Priest decks, because it doesn't run many legendaries. It doesn't run many big creatures, only has 2 mind controls, doesn't have shit like Thought Steal, which can give you more than 2 mind controls and all that. So pretty much what ends up being the case is if I play another Priest deck, they drop like Ysera and they have mind control in their hand, I pretty much lost the game. So, yeah, it kind of sucks against Priests, so I was pretty lucky to win that match, just because I was probably a small dog in, you know, in the odds there. But, you know, once I won that match, playing against his Paladin was really fucking easy. He's playing like a mid-range Paladin deck, and I think I had a pretty good hand against it, so, you know, that kind of ups my odds to the point where it's almost impossible to lose. And, you know, he did pretty well, like he kept up toe-to-toe with the deck, but I think when I ended up winning, he had like 4 cards left in his deck, so that was absolutely not happening considering I had over 20 life left, and I think I still had a Holy Fire up, so, you know, that wasn't too close. The final round, Artosis. Artosis had just beaten Trump in the semis. I think he went 3-1 against Trump. And, you know, he's playing very well. His decks are pretty solid. I got to see 2 of them up to that point. I kind of knew what was going on. I figured that he'd play the Paladin deck first, and I know from personal experience that if you play Paladin versus Paladin, the Paladin that has the faster creatures almost always wins. So I figured if I play my Paladin, I'd be a pretty big favorite. And what ended up going is my opening hand was similar to his. He had like the Dream Opener. I had a pretty good hand, but because he went second, he played his cards, and I couldn't play mine. And I was behind the whole time. I had a pretty miraculous comeback with a Ragnaros draw, but in the end, just as I was about to complete the comeback and win, he top decked a Consecrate, and it was just enough to end the game for me. So at that point, I wasn't too worried because, you know, I also felt that my Priest deck was very good against the Paladin. If I had lost the match with the Priest deck, I was pretty much fucked because my Mage deck, pretty much the main counter is a semi-fast Paladin deck, which is pretty much what he had. So that was going to suck if I had to lead that way. So, you know, counting on the Priest, Priest pulled through. Very easy win. I had a pretty good hand. People said that I had a pretty bad one, which I can understand when they compared it to the first game where he had an insane one. But, you know, we all played well, had some better cards, but I think overall, more times than not, when you match up those 2 decks, I'd win a vast majority of them with the Priest. So no surprises there. Then he plays his Priest, and pretty much the opposite happens, where I get some shitty cards, and he gets his insane draws again. I had to face a turn 2 4/7 injured Blade Master because the coin comboing into like some crazy stuff again, and I'm pretty sure that creature never died, like ever died. So I got absolutely smashed that game. His Priest deck was a lot of like little combos, but he had very few creatures, so I wasn't too concerned with the Mage because I have a very fast Mage deck. Mage that runs fast decks usually beat Priests, especially if the Priests rely on combination of cards to do things, because at that point, you know, you can just remove the combos with fewer cards and they invest in them. So that was easy as fuck. It's pretty cool that the first time I played the Mage deck that I named turn 8, I ended up winning on turn 8, so that was pretty sick. And then at that point, I was actually feeling pretty good about winning. I think Artosis said that his Warrior deck is based on Ixar's deck. I don't know if that's exactly true, if he actually said that. I didn't really stick around too long, but it did resemble it, pretty similar. And I played Ixar's Warrior deck with my Mage deck, and I think I won like 6 out of 7 or something like that. So I was pretty sure, you know, I was going to win. But, you know, it's Hearthstone. So even if you're pretty sure, even if you're likely to win, maybe I'm 65%, maybe I'm 60% to win. And as it so happened, that did not pull through because I got second. It was a lot of really close calls. I could have made a few better plays in hindsight, but in the moment, it's really hard to tell these things. He had pretty much the craziest opener you could ask for on a Warrior, but I had some okay cards as well, and because my deck does very well against Warrior, I was kind of keeping up with him. In the late game, I was starting to get an advantage, even though I was wasting cards. Like, I was wasting shit like Blizzard just because I knew he had nothing left. And the pivotal point in the game was the fact that I didn't play an Ooze on a 3-1 weapon. So he had a Fiery War Axe that he already had attacked with, and he had nothing else on his board with, I believe, 3 cards in his hand. So I was at 22 life, and I played a Water Elemental, and I think I pinged him or something like that, and I had 2 mana left, and I could have oozed the 3-1 weapon, but I thought being at 22 life, didn't give it much thought. I mean, there's no way he's going to kill me next turn, and, you know, I'm pretty much sealing the game very, very soon. If, you know, more than likely, it's going to happen the turn after the next. But what happened is he had a pretty crazy combo with the Raging Worgen and giving him charge and all that, and I ended up taking, I think, 17 damage that turn. And I was at like 5 life. I had to waste the Pyroblast to kill a creature, not to die the next turn, which wasn't certainly a call, but, you know, based on what he had in his hand, people knew that was the right move. I mean, more than likely it was the right move because all I needed was any creature to kill me, had that, you know, had that been my move. So I played a little bit safe, made it on another turn, had a Blizzard, but because he drew a Leper Gnome, I couldn't handle the board anymore and ended up losing. Had I played the Ooze that turn, wouldn't necessarily have won, but I definitely would have stayed longer in the game, and my chances were probably a lot better had I done so. But, you know, I'm pretty happy with my decision in the tournament. I don't think I've made many mistakes, and probably the Ooze play was the most questionable of them, and given the circumstance, I'm not too sad about it. But overall, BlizzCon is pretty sweet. I'll give you guys some stories about all that shit. Probably another video, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, just because, you know, I gotta get going here. Gotta pass the fuck out, and yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Oh, and they did end up giving me a trophy. Look at that shit. Bunch of metal.
OJ mug, bro.
OJ mug. It's dirty as fucking. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't think I'm drinking out of this, man. Anyway, I'm heading out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to check out the Blizzard restream, they have the VOD up, and I'll link it in the description for you guys to see. So you guys can enjoy that if you haven't seen it yet. I'll see you guys tomorrow.